The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone. Thank you for joining the final session in our Omnichannel webinar series with Retail Pro and Unite You. Today we have two different case studies with two separate retailers. We have Mexicali Blues CEO Topher Mallory. Unfortunately, at the last minute, Topher was unable to join the live webinar, so we have a recording of his findings from the different aspects of Omnichannel that they implemented in his business. On the live webinar, we do have the web manager of Erik's Bike Shop, Graham Bloor. We have our two moderators today. We have Alexandra Frith from Retail Pro. She's the Director of Marketing. We also have Shemaine Das, who is the CEO and founder of Unite You. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Alexandra, who's going to kick us off talking about the benefits of Omnichannel.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the last installment in our webinar series. And those of you who are joining us not for the first time know that we've talked about all the different things that the retailers have done and hope to do with Omnichannel moving forward. And the reason for that is because there's many benefits on different sides of the organizational spectrum and on the side of the consumers as well. One of the benefits that obviously everybody knows is it enables you to marry the channels to the point of driving traffic to your stores. It doesn't really matter where the first touch point occurs with your shopper as long as you can make a meaningful connection and convert that into the sale. So one of the things that we end up doing is creating that pipeline that connects the online with offline and gets them into the store. And in the store, of course, you have a plethora of additional upsell opportunities and a way to educate and connect and leverage your trained store staff to tell a better brand story, to really build a relationship and take it to the next level, and of course grow your bottom line. So as we look at omnichannel benefits, there's obviously stuff on the organizational side of the spectrum too, on the inventory management, on the operational side. There's ways you can rebalance inventory. There's ways you can fulfill from different locations rather than your warehouse to make sure you have less markdowns at the end of the season. There are different ways you can choose to structure your omnichannel initiatives, but in the end, they all aim to grow your profitability. So omnichannel, does it actually result in a happier customer? And a lot of the statistics that we look at say that absolutely it does. And some of the retailers who use this and who use our solution with Unite You will hear from today, will show you exactly how they leverage that benefit and how they interpreted that in their organization, specifically by exposing inventory online, by being able to find an item online and locate it in one of your local stores, saving, in essence, trips for your shoppers and making the experience more pleasant. So as we go on, the shipping costs, of course, can be reduced as well because the different shoppers will be able to get fulfillment from locations closer to them, which will guide fulfillment and shorten the timelines, providing a slightly faster path to instant gratification that we all as consumers strive for. And for the retailer, for you guys, what that also means is reduced shipping costs because you're able to fulfill from locations potentially closest to your shoppers. The industry in general sees omnichannel as a giant opportunity because there's a lot of investment going on across the different spectrums that we talked about and different priorities, from retailers seeking to have greater customer visibility and understanding the total value of customer to the organization to really implementing different functions on the either store management or the operations management side of the spectrum. And the important note here is that Retail Pro International, Unite You have partnered up specifically to solve all of the challenges that many analysts, and this data that you're looking at is actually from a report that was created by RSR last month. What we are after is being able to provide the technological foundation to meet those challenges today. So as we look at customers who shop across the different channels, we see the fact that across the board, those retailers are able to capture more of their wallet share. And those customers are a lot more profitable for the retailers to maintain. which is why we are really focusing on providing the continuity across channels from store systems to your online systems and creating that multi-channel touch points and feature sets so you can engage with the customer and have consistency of the information flow across all platforms. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of an introduction about Retail Pro if you're not already familiar with us. We are a company that's been a mainstay in the industry for quite a few years, over a quarter century, with presence in 99 countries and very, very strong presence in U.S. We live and breathe retail. We live and breathe supporting our customers through the trend changes, through their strategy evolution. So what we focus on is providing a consistent platform for retail and platform that can evolve and grow as your priorities change and maintains that flexibility through the years. Here's a quick rundown of a few of our marquee accounts, and of course those names are there because I'm sure you know them, but there are many others and some of the distinguished customers that you'll hear from today as well, because when it comes to retail, the solutions that are meaningful to your business, regardless if you are a 2-store retailer, 20-store retailer, or a multi-billion-dollar enterprise spanning all continents. At the end of the day, the technological foundation, the retail strategies, and the way you choose to create your customer experience is going to be personal, it's going to be very unique to you. And there are tools that jointly between Retail Pro International and UnitU we provide that you can leverage in your business today. So let me pass on the baton to Shemaine, who can talk to you a little bit more about the UnitU side of the story.
Hi, thanks, Alexandra. Welcome, and before I forget also, we are having a Q&A session in the end, so if you do have any questions throughout, just ping those questions in on the webinar interface. So we can help answer that. Really want to get to the customer experience, but just to give you a bit of a background, we've been on e-commerce for bricks and mortar retailers for about 15 years. We've actually had a very tight integration with Retail Pro for nearly 12 years now, so it's been quite a while. We actually are very intimate with each other's systems. Here are some of the websites and accounts that we have. So we've been focused on this merger of bricks and mortar and e-commerce for quite a while. And you know, it's kind of interesting. The last 2-3 years, this has really come to our fore in the whole omnichannel story. And it's been great to actually do this. We support public companies. We are level 1 DSS provider from a PCI perspective. So we actually do take care of the security and are very serious about it. About 3 years ago, we realized we actually had to redo the integration aspects of it with Retail Pro and the systems as well, mainly to take into account the fact that we're now dealing with a lot more data, both from a customer perspective and also from a inventory perspective, to make this omnichannel challenge real. And the good news is, over the last couple of years, we've actually managed to implement that. We're going to go through some of that today with you. So just from an e-commerce perspective, we're a component-based platform, and essentially that means that from a design perspective, we can do pretty much anything that your designers want us to do. But we have actually got some pretty good technology to do that. From a responsive perspective, we actually have also responsive and a hybrid responsive capability that allows you to actually do very fast mobile sites as well. As you can see, check out our sites, all pretty sites, but the good news is not just pretty, but it's high-performing sites as well. So we've got that, and we actually then married this to the omnichannel aspects of things. I'm going to dwell, if there's one slide that you want to copy, this is probably the one you want to actually take a snapshot. We are recording this session for later use, but you know, defining omnichannel has always been fun, and so we actually work with Forrester as well to try and come up with what we really mean by it. And usually, you know, find in store, getting enterprise level inventory up online, be it for 10 stores, 6 stores, 100 stores, we've actually put the infrastructure to do that, and that's the first step. So find in store, if you look at the retail benefit and then also the customer benefit, they're fairly obvious. I'm going to read all these, but buy online, pick up in store. And when I say buy online, pick up in store, there's kind of like two ways of doing things. One is like you want to design it so you can have an operation that can react to someone actually using inventory in the store and picking it up, and our usual challenge on this one is to get it done within 30 minutes. So that's kind of where our benchmark is on that versus ship to store, which is essentially having articles shipped from a warehouse or another store to another store, which usually takes about 2-3 days depending on the location. And then the ship from store to actually leverage that. And then the other big one that initially folks didn't really realize how much of an ROI savings this was is the selling your total inventory online and having the operations be smooth behind it. We found that our retailers were saying this is really a key benefit. That the consumer sometimes doesn't really see it, but from a retailer perspective, your inventory turns improve dramatically. So with that, I want to launch a quick poll here. You can give us some feedback. Okay, I think that's running. I'll give you a few minutes to implement that. Hopefully everybody's I'm just seeing the results coming here. It seems to be very even. Everybody wants everything. Oh, that's still the change. All right. All right, I'll just give that a few more seconds. All right, let's close that. I think I can publish this now. Share. So interesting enough, well, actually 73% of you, selling online store inventory was very important. But again, that's very interesting. So, all right, cool. That's a good data point to actually move on with. Hide. Amanda, are you next one? Okay, all right. So going back to what I mentioned earlier, what we had to do here from a foundation perspective. Next slide. Okay. Integrated systems. We've had integrated customer-wide integration with Retail Pro and other systems for a long, long time now, making sure that a customer in the store and a customer on the web are the same and one. We put all that information back into the main system, in this case Retail Pro. And then the next challenge was taking that enterprise-wide inventory and putting it online. And of course, there are operational challenges to make sure that that data is accurate. And so we actually had to build, setbacks, etc., on a location-by-location basis to try and make sure that even if you can't have a very, very accurate inventory, for example, you might have 20, but you don't have to put all 20 online. You can say, okay, let's have a setback of 5 if you're not really certain you've got 20, you may have 15, things like that. So that's the kind of systems that we put in place, and operationally that's worked really well. And so that was the foundation aspect, and the other foundation aspect was really making sure we had the tools to translate retail data into consumer-facing data in the digital side. So we actually invested a lot in a lot of the tools of that aspect. So things like changing codes from color codes into real language, being able to have mixed catalogs so that labels were correct from a perspective of, be it a golf club versus a scarf versus a pair of shoes, being able to make sure that that is presented in the most pleasant way for a consumer to actually buy stuff and to review information on. So that we did a lot of that kind of investment. And with the integration with Retail Pro, as I said, we did actually put this new integration in place a couple of years ago, and we've been converting our customers to it. But the good news is once it's there, we actually leverage this information in a really great way. So in this case here, Mexicali Blues, they started off with find in store and selling online inventory online, the whole store inventory online. I'm going to now hand it over to the electronic Topher, but just a bit of background. They've got 7 stores operating in Maine. They've been with UniteU for a number of years now, doing well on the e-commerce side of the house. And then 2 years ago, they said, let's start putting these new omnichannel initiatives in place. And with that, I want to hand over to Topher. So this is Find in Store. And what drove them to do this?
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to weigh in. This has been a really fun road to this point, and hopefully it's something everyone can benefit from. The find in store specifically was the first step, but it really wasn't the first thought. For us, the first thought was, as a small company with a relatively small warehouse and 6 at the time physical locations with enormous inventories, how do we leverage that in-store inventory for our online customer without creating a logistical nightmare? So the first step in that was to get all of our in-store information at the location level from retail up to our website with UniteU. And when we had that information there, we looked towards other people's designs that were larger than us and noticed that there's a lot of potential with our customers, especially those that are checking in with us digitally and consuming in store. So we worked on the Find in Store button and tailored that information to help not only our customer in store, but also our managers. So frequently managers would use mobile device, whether it was primary or secondary, to look where an item was to answer a consumer question. And better yet, a lot of the time consumers had already done that and knew that the necklace or style of clothing they were looking for was in store, which was great. So cut down on a lot of communities and certainly led to a happier customer. It's near impossible at our size to really track ROI in store, but anecdotally, the amount of feedback we got from customers about knowing something was in store and not having to run between our other locations was huge. Our locations were within 15 or 20 minutes of one another, and a lot of the time we would be using our Retail Pro data on site to shuttle customers between locations, or for us to use our delivery vans to bring things as custom requests to customers. And instead, we're seeing customers go directly to where the product is or call ahead of time and ask for something they've seen online that is in the location already. So the savings there was huge, and the third certainly seemed like it was a success.
Oops, I have to cut off mute here. Sorry. The next thing we did was actually now use that inventory that he had in the stores to actually drive web sales, and some very interesting stats that came from that.
Like I hinted to in my first answer, this was really largely the starting point for us. We looked at our website and noticed how it wasn't reflective of the opulent in-store experience, and the thing that was missing was our inventory. It wasn't in our warehouse, especially when we were down to the last handful of pieces for top sellers. But we still weren't selling down to zero because we could never perfectly optimize where something was. But if we could bring it all to the web, we could bring it all to a qualified consumer who wanted that item. So this was really the catalyst for both of these changes. We've been working on this for about 2 years theoretically now and doing a lot of it manually behind the scenes. The amount of time it took was staggering, but so were the sales that it created. currently selling and noticing these trends now. We do stock some things a little deeper as a product of this study in our warehouse, but it an enormous time savings to the system automate those requests, as well as give us the central point to look at what we're requesting so that we can see, hey, these items should be in stock and on hand in our warehouse. So it's also helping to helping with forecasting and some bigger inventory planning. The last point on the challenge is the real-time capabilities. This is an enormous one for us. We're not a 24/7 business. We're under 100 employees. When we were doing this manually, we would wake up in the morning, or an employee would jump right on this first thing. But they would be working against the clock. The store opened and we started selling things in our brick-and-mortar setting. There was always the chance that we could sell what had already been sold online. This created an enormous run of small, discouraging moments with customers in the holiday season when we had top sellers committed to online orders and could not find them anywhere company-wide. When we moved to a real-time format, that manual component being gone, an employee in each store is assigned to a scanner that is capable of retail tasks, automated emails. They go around the locations, sort for, and select those items first, then look the back stock in store, and all of the prior days e-commerce requests or orders are filled with products. So we've eliminated almost 100% of that problem from the manual version. For managing the locations, we've worked hand in hand with UNU to create a per location set of settings that allows us to either include the inventory or not, the overall, to include the location in the transfer availability or not. And just those two settings allow us to optimize based on our schedules in store. So if we have an upcoming sale or something where we know we're going to be in a pinch with staff and want to provide the best in-store experience, we might shut that inventory off from the aggregate, but leave it on as a worst-case scenario for the transfer. So in the event that we receive a big run, it's still there, but we would probably put it as a low priority, so it's the last store to be checked. And again, we would take its inventory out of the aggregate so as to create a little extra buffer. And we also have a setback and something separate from this, but in this by location set of settings, we're nimble and can make changes daily based on our in-store needs as well as our delivery schedules. Once we have a particular location set up, you can change, we don't do it regularly, but who gets requests. So in this screen, you're seeing what we have as options for notifications. We use in-store, a simple email. We do not currently have our in-store team accessing the portal. They just get an email from the portal, and this is where we set those addresses. We have managers as well as store scanners being emailed, and in those emails they have a button when everything is said and done. They click a link and then manage reporting through that screen. Once an order has been filled at the store location, in the tracking screen you're able to see what that status is, and this is also updated as orders are shipped, so you're only looking at what is currently either at a location, requested, or in transit. In synopsis, selling from a store inventory online is affecting over 49% of our orders currently, and that's after improvements. So I wonder, before we really started looking at this, how many potential orders when we didn't have store inventories open, we lost. And when we were doing this manually, how many it might have affected then. And I'm looking forward to seeing how much more we can leverage the current inventory we're seeing a number of sightings sell 0 before projected. We're seeing increased buys around bestsellers, and a lot of that we tie back to looking at these things rather than spending time running around manually requesting them. So from a efficiency standpoint, we have decreased the number of customer interactions around getting them an item and increased the amount of customer interactions around providing service or a good in-store experience. As a company, we've decreased the number of manual events surrounding getting the things to the right place and are leveraging automated aspects of UniteU and Retail Pro working together to manage our inventory more efficiently. And overall, the customer service and in-store and online experiences have been enhanced a great deal, and I'm really looking forward to where the future of this product lies for us. It makes us look like a much bigger company than we are, yet they provide this small company, small store feel that our customers love.
Okay, so I know we do have a second poll here, and I'm going to launch that one. It'll take a few minutes. All right, slowly coming in here. Yeah, it's quite interesting when we were doing this with Toph and the team. Getting feedback on the operation was really key. We actually tied some developers with the operations folks, and it's interesting. One of the things that we wanted to avoid, for example, was that email link. They wanted to avoid them actually having to log into a different system. The fact that you could actually email this or text this also to their mobile phones meant that they could just click and say yes or no. In fact, one of the things that we've added with feedback is that you saw the link there just for yes, I've done things. They can also reject it to say yes, no, we're not doing this. I can't find it fairly immediately. So once we get that signal, we actually look to the next place and message it out that way. So that was good feedback even within the first few weeks of launching. Okay, I think we've got most people voted here. Let me close that and share that. So, asset, that's providing better customer service, operational efficiencies. I'm not sure what other means, but we'll find out. And yeah, looks like everybody here is very interested in this particular feature, which is great. Okay, moving on. So Erik's Bike Shop and Graham I'm going to introduce Graham in a sec, but find in store, ship to store. Erik's Bike Shop has been with UniteU for, oh God, 6-7 years, I think it is. They've got 22 stores across Minnesota and Wisconsin. Their digital revenue has been growing with us tremendously, and we started actually putting on-store inventory, I think about 4 years ago, so it's been a while, and then we moved into ship to store and ship from store in the last couple of years. So with that, I'm going to introduce Graham Blower, and Graham, you there?
I am indeed. You guys can hear me?
Yep, so what drove implementing Find in Store, Graham? That was the question for you, so off you go.
Yep. So as Shumaine had said, we've been with UniteU for quite a while, and primarily had moved to them as for our e-commerce platform, and been performing very well over the years. When we were there, we were showing our aggregated company inventory to all the customers. So customers could come on the website and kind of see what we had available company-wide, but there wasn't the ability to look at an inventory level, location level. And with 20-plus brick-and-mortar stores, we knew we couldn't have all items at all locations. And we were also running into a lot of issues with customers just seeing that items were online and assuming that they were at their local store. So a customer would, look online, find the item they want, and they would just drive to the store. They would get there, hey, I'm looking for this this blue jersey, you're showing it online, and the store would be like, well, unfortunately, we only have 2 of those left in the company, and neither of them are here. And so we were running into some issues there. And the biggest thing that I think we had found is that without showing inventory, location-based inventory on the site, customers were definitely making that assumption that anything was at any store. So we decided, like I think Shemaine said about 4 or 5 years ago, that we needed to be putting location-based inventory on the site. And the big things we really saw from that listed there, reduced costs to customer service. So, customers who were understanding that maybe not all items were at all stores, we were getting a lot of phone calls saying, hey, I saw this online, is this available at my local store? And so, obviously putting that up online, customers no longer had to call us. The big benefit of that, from my point of view, is freeing up my customer service team to do other tasks, focus on other things instead of just, getting information to customers that we could give to them online. It definitely improved the customer experience. Now, again, the customer can spend some time researching on our website, find the jersey they want, and then with a click of a button easily find out if it's the store they want to go to. And the most important thing, I think, was, again, setting that customer expectation that, if you're on a page looking at a jersey and you can click a button and see, oh, this jersey isn't at all stores, it's at this store that's 10 miles to me, I can drive there, or, it's not near me, I'll find a different jersey that's going to work for me. But setting those customer expectations that, not all items are at all stores is important, and the biggest thing that I think we found out was, saving those customers wasted trips to the store where they just would assume that something was there, really, ended up not providing great customer service, and that's something that we're very much focused on. So, the whole point of a Find in Store from us was improving the customer experience, and, once we had that Find in Store inventory up online, we had it there for a while, and then we were like, hey, can we do anything else with this? And that was when we kind of started to talk to Unite You about other options, which was
Graham, one question on that one, actually, just in the Find in Store, I think there was a bit of debate on whether to show actual inventory or just show messaging that's available, correct? And you guys said you don't really need to show how many numbers were there, you just need to show the right message.
That is correct, yep. So on our, if you go to the site, it doesn't say that we have 5 at a store, it just says, it's available. We were cautious, obviously, it's kind of been touched on here, that, we pride ourselves in having very accurate inventory and maintaining that, but always the situation where, something sold 2 minutes ago in a store, it's not going to update online immediately. So we were very careful with the messaging. There's basically some thresholds with inventory levels in there, which shows different messaging. So if a store has 10 of an item, it's just going to say in stock. You can go and check it out. If a store has, less than 3 of an item, it will give different messaging saying in stock, but call to check availability. Just to make sure that we're not, again, having a customer drive to store. And honestly, we found that seems to work well. We could show specific inventory levels. I mean, we are sending those up to the site at this point, but we've just found that it isn't necessary to do that as long as it's, good customer-facing messaging linked to the inventory levels. And then, after we'd had Find in Store running for a while, we were kind of thinking about other things we could do with it, and Ship to Store was basically our next step. And really what drove us to that is we're a little unique in terms of some other e-commerce retailers, at least, where we have quite a few vendor restrictions, where some of our largest vendors don't allow us to ship their products. So we're only available for in-store purchase. A customer needs to come into the store, physically be there to finalize the transaction and take that item home. So we had a large number of items on our website, some of our highest selling items that we just couldn't sell online. So we had no way of actually converting customers, which was one of our challenges. Another one that was that, we now had Find in Store information up on the site, but a customer, apart from looking at the inventory, couldn't really do anything about it. There was no way for them to reserve it online. There was no way for them to add it to the cart on those specific items that we couldn't ship. And we were certainly getting calls from customers. I think it's something that there's an expectation out there with other retailers putting technologies out there like Ship to Store. they would be on our website and they'd call us and say, hey, I can see that it's in my local store. I want to pick it up, but I don't see an option to hit a button to pick it up in store. So we were certainly aware that it was something that our customers were getting to a point where they were expecting it from us. So those were kind of our big challenges that we were looking to solve with Ship to Store. And you know, the big push for us, I guess, when we sat down, and obviously it was going to be a pretty good undertaking, was increasing the level of convenience that we could offer to the customer. So we launched Ship to Store with UniteU in 2014, and there were a number of big things that, when we sat down to think about it, we were concerned with. You know, our customers, a lot of the products we're selling are, you know, pretty big ticket items. They could be spending a lot of time online on our website researching the specific bag that they want to purchase, you know, finding if we have the correct size or color that they want. And without Ship to Store, basically they were spending that time doing their research. They would go into a store, and our salespeople, you know, wouldn't know where they were at in the process, and they would basically start all over again. The customer would have to spend that time explaining what they were looking for. You know, the salesperson and customer may end up coming to a different suggestion of a product they were looking for, and we were running into issues where, you know, perhaps the customer made up their mind and then a salesperson was trying to tell them something else. With Ship to Store, that kind of went away. If a customer was online, they found the perfect bike for them, click of a button, add it to their cart, go through the checkout process, and that item was then pretty much reserved for them, and we would deal with the logistics of getting it to that store. The other thing is, you know, again, with big ticket items, customers would quite often come into our stores. Our expert sales staff would direct them towards the correct product for them, and you know, the customer may realize this is what they want, but they weren't quite ready to make the purchase there in store. And so before Ship to Store, they would go home, they would think about it, they'd make the decision, and they'd pretty much have to drive back to the store again, say, hey, yeah, I decided I want to go with that bag, let's make it happen. Ship to Store, now we have that in place. The customer can go home, they can think about it. When they're ready to make that purchase, again, they can click the buttons online, get it all set up, and we will notify them when they're ready. And the final thing that, well, not, one of the other things that we had was customers not being able to really, or there wasn't an easy way for customers to notify us that they wanted to move products around. So they could click the sign in store, see an item wasn't at their local store, but short of calling us or calling the store and saying, hey, I want to pick this item up at a different store that it's located at, there wasn't a way to do that. And Ship to Store, again, gave us the tools so that we knew that the customer wanted to move this bike to a specific store. And again, we kind of jump in at that point and take care of all the logistics so we can make it as convenient as possible for the customer. And one other point that you know, we run into a lot is, again, with especially bikes, and we sell a lot of snowboards and skis, they require some professional setup. And so a customer comes into the store and makes that final purchase, that item isn't necessarily going to be ready to pick up and go right there. This, again, just increased customer convenience. They can purchase it online. We do all the tuning or setting up of the item and then notify them once it's actually ready to pick up. So they just walk into the store, show them the slip of paper to notify the store that they're approved to pick up the item, and they can walk out with their new product. So, yeah.
Yeah, actually, on that last point, we've heard experiences that sometimes a non-clean pickup is more opportunistic. The fact that you can actually make sure that you know, if it's a pair of jeans or something like that, you can actually get to try it on and have more of an opportunity to sell. But at that time, the mission of the website to get the customer into the store with something that at least they thought they want is really achieved. Sorry, Graham, keep going.
We do definitely see that. You know, we'll see customers, especially when there's some specific sizing items with bikes and snowboards. Again, they'll check out online and we'll get it set up, and they'll go in, and the salesperson will be like, you know, hey, this probably isn't the best bike size for you. And again, it just gives us, you know, we've already at that point connected with the customer, and our salespeople have the tools they need to interact with the customer and get them what they need to make them happy. Yeah, and this is just some statistics that we pulled back from you know, launching both Find in Store and Ship to Store. You know, it's kind of a little trickier to say, specifically if this is additional revenue that we're generating. You can see some of these numbers in terms of e-commerce. Definitely, we're seeing some pretty huge jumps in growth since we've launched this. 86% in e-commerce transactions, 76% increase in conversion rate, and that was something that we were expecting to see because, again, we had a lot of items that we couldn't count as conversions on the site. There wasn't an add to cart button. Customers couldn't take action. So definitely this has kind of enabled us to open up our catalog and make sure we're converting customers while they're on the site. In the Find in Store, 17% of customers who hit a product page are clicking that Find in Store button to investigate our inventory. And again, that could potentially be higher. That's any customer hitting a product page. Obviously, there's people who aren't within our geographic region who maybe don't care if an item's located in a store. So that's a pretty good statistic. And right now, about 20% of our e-commerce or orders placed online are ship-to-store orders. So we're seeing a good amount of usage for it, and definitely very excited to have it in our tool belt to offer to customers and see that they're using it.
So got a few questions for you that have come in, Graham. Is how do the staff handle the implementation of ship-to-store, and how do you get buy-in from store staff?
Yeah, that was definitely something that we were very concerned of when we were setting this up. We pride ourselves on very high levels of customer services, and we were concerned that on a busy, beautiful Saturday when our stores are already very busy and someone comes in to pick up a bike that they ordered online, that our store staff maybe wouldn't treat them in the way that they would treat a more traditional brick-and-mortar customer. So to get around that, we made sure we do pay our salespeople, they are commission-based. And so we made sure that in our systems that the person who assists the customer with the pickup would be incentivized for that. And it's just making sure that the salespeople say, hey, these are basically customers that you maybe wouldn't have got, otherwise maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't have, but you have the ability to make some significant sales here. And, also making sure, it was pointed out on an earlier slide that, the ability to upsell on these is pretty drastic. A customer will quite often buy a bike online. And in our store, if a customer is buying a bike, we're generally making sure they're purchasing other items that would go along with that bike purchase. Online, they quite often are just buying the big ticket item, but once they get to the store, that salesperson has a great opportunity to make sure they're purchasing all the apparel they maybe need, or a helmet, or lights, or whatever would go along with that. So definitely, if it's possible to incentivize the sales staff, it's important, but in the long run, it's all revenue coming in that's making the company grow. So.
All right, I've got a couple of others for you, Graham. One is what has been the biggest challenge since implementing this?
I think the biggest challenge that we've really seen would be clear customer messaging on the system. We have some logistical stuff going on the back end where we're spread around quite a big geographical region. So if we have one bike left in the company, it may not be really easy for us to get that to the customer where they select the store they want to pick it up at. So we've gone into it knowing that we needed to be very clear upfront and realistic with our messaging to customers. But we found out that customers aren't always going to read everything that you put up on the site. And so we did get to a point where we were having some issues with customers saying, hey, I was under the impression I was purchasing this, it would be ready to pick up in a certain time frame. And we actually, shortly after we launched, kind of put a new, just a simple checkbox on the message that we showed the customer saying, hey, you need to check and say that you read and understood this. And we really saw a big drop-off with any issues once we had that, making a customer check to say that they'd read our messaging that we had put up there. And the other thing is just, operationally, everyone's different, and, the operational sides of it, we kind of wanted to roll this out in a softer manner without putting a lot of time and effort into it on our end, just to see how it was getting used. We've seen that it is getting used a lot, and so we're in the process right now of readdressing some of our operational stuff to make it much more automated. And I know that actually UniteU has some pretty cool tools that I was just seeing that we may be interested in following up with to help us messaging our stores and that kind of stuff to take some of the work away from us, my customer service team. So.
And last one, Graham, I think somewhat related, is how do you see these systems evolving in the future?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I definitely think that it's to a point with where customers are expecting to see these features, and so, you know, I think it is an important thing to get implemented on people's sites. Obviously, we now have the location-based inventory, and you know, being able to roll that into ship to store was important to us. I think the next step is starting to use that to really drive some more messaging, you know, enabling real-time calculations for both estimated pickup dates and potentially shipping charges if necessary to customers, so that we can really make the best use of the data that we have up on the site and pass that information in a meaningful way to the customers. And then, yeah, like I just said, some of the automated messaging that you have going out to stores, look like the Mexicali Blues, is something that we would, you know, certainly be interested in too. Being able to use that and cut down on any manual calling of stores or messaging of stores would be great if we could start to use that to drive some messaging for our store staff too.
Thank you, Graham. I appreciate that, and also, you know, as I said, the journey continues on this one as we work together very closely with our customers to try and solve these things. I think we're going to hand back to Alexander to do a bit of a wrap-up here. If you do have any questions, like I said, I got a few, but if you want to actually type those questions in, please do so at this time. So back to you, Alexander.
Thank you, Shemaine, and thank you, Graham. So just to wrap it up, I'm sure you remember about nearly 40 minutes ago we started out this webinar looking at the statistics slide, and we really wanted to come back and show it to you again, because the reality of it is there's a lot of opportunity when it comes to distilling what does omnichannel mean to you, and putting that into practice in your organization, whether it be in your staff management strategies, whether it be in staff training, whether it be in technology. And the point is, it's all available to you today. And it's something that we've seen implemented across various retailers. We've seen it done successfully, and we are very happy to be part of that success. Both Retail Pro International and Unite You work together to make sure that you have the tools and the foundations necessary for your retail strategies, and it supports across all Retail Pro product lines. So regardless whether you are a Retail Pro 8 customer, Retail Pro 9, or Retail Pro Prism user, that solution can be yours, and we're happy to help you implement and discuss your vision and plans for the future. So that said, if there's any more questions, please send them in now. Otherwise, you'll see email addresses for both of the companies on screen momentarily, and you'll be able to reference them in our follow-up communications as well. Thank you for joining, and looking forward to hearing from you.
And thanks again to the Mexicali, Topher, and to Graham as well. I really appreciate this, and for all of you paying attention. As I said, we will have this session recorded and available if you want to communicate back to us for that. Thanks very much.